pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Spencer, will you call the roll for our Committee of the Whole meeting?
Hesse. Here. Gutenkopf. Gutenkopf. Here. Leader.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Graham.
Here.
Polumsky. Here. York.
Here.
Hipskin.
Here.
Healy.
Here.
Levin.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Morley.
Here.
Wagner.
Here.
Mulliner.
Here.
14 present, 0 absent.
Thank you. We have a quorum. No one has signed in for public comment. Is there anyone that has not signed in that wishes to speak tonight during public comment? There being no one, we will proceed on to our agenda, and we are now at Visitor and Tourism. And I'll turn it over to Assistant City Manager Kopp, who will handle the proceedings from here.
Right. Just a couple of things. I know we originally talked about having the TIF presentations tonight, but due to the vast volume of information that needs to be presented, we're going to do it next Monday night. And also, we'd like to go, right after legal, we'd like to go to claims, which is number U, to involve the city attorney. So,
Legal to claims?
Yeah. And just go, then get right back into the normal schedule, Board of Police and Fire Commissioners and so on.
Okay. And who's handling Visitor and Tourism?
Brian Bricker here.
Right. Brian, thank you. Proceed.
Okay, good evening. As many of you may know, the Visitor Tourism Office was created to partner with others to generate overnight stays and day visits to the city of Elmhurst. And several factors make the city a very attractive destination for both overnight stays as well as day visitors. Elmhurst has a great location, has an active business park. Elmhurst has a commuter train line west to other suburbs and east directly into Chicago. Elmhurst has attractive and lively shopping and dining districts, and the cultural arts and educational institutions that reside within the city contribute to make it an attractive destination. Elmhurst, as you know, also has several hotels and also collects a 4% hotel occupancy tax. Now, the visitor tourism budget is on page 178 of your budget book. There were 3 lines that I would like to draw your attention to. The first is line 1002. That's wages and salary, part-time. Marlene Tegmeyer is the Visitor Tourism Coordinator for the City of Elmhurst. It's a part-time position that's been in place for a number of years. Marlene coordinates that office. She partners with other visitor tourism players with the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau. She's active in the business district organizations here in Elmhurst, and also meets regularly with the Visitor and Tourism Advisory Committee made up of representatives from the business community, the arts and culture community, and the educational institutions in Elmhurst. The next item is number 6037, memberships. And that line accounts for the municipal membership in the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau. The DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau is an organization that promotes both overnight and day visitors to Elmhurst as well as throughout DuPage County. You'll see that there is an increase in that account for this coming year, and that's accounted for by a restructuring of the membership program of the Bureau. Until this year, the Bureau had a membership program that relied on municipal memberships. It relied on memberships by hotels and by attractions and others throughout the county. the city has been a member for a number of years, and over the past few years had enjoyed a deeply discounted membership rate at less than 50% of the regular rate as computed at that time, which was based on 25% of 1 percentage point of the hotel motel tax revenues. More or less, it would have been in the $25,000 range historically, ranging up and down any given year depending on the hotel motel revenues. The Bureau has restructured its membership to really attract and encourage more municipal memberships. The Bureau found that a number of municipalities were not participating, yet were receiving many of the benefits of the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau because of the Bureau's emphasis on county-wide promotion. They're not limited, as I said, to particular towns. It's a promotion and marketing of the entire county. So out of that restructuring, there's a push for new and added municipal memberships. And the new membership rate for municipalities is 20%, excuse me, just a moment, 25% of 1% of the tax. So for instance, based on an estimated hotel motel occupancy tax revenue of $400,000 over the course of a year, 1% or 1 percentage point of that would be $100,000, and that would be then $100,000 times 25%, which equals $25,000. So that's the estimated municipal membership rate, if you can follow that.
No.
No?
Okay, say that again.
Okay.
It's still what was said before. It's 25% of 1% of the hotel tax revenue.
Okay, so
Correct.
400,000 times 25% is 100,000 times 1% is.
Some other number.
Okay.
Oh,
Alderman York, right now, it's 4% tax.
Uh-huh.
And so it's a quarter of 1%, which is $25,000.
No, it's
No.
Quarter of I'm sorry, 1% of the 400, I'm sorry, yeah, wait a
quarter of
minute.
the 4%.
It's 4% tax right now, and which generates about $400,000 a year.
Yes.
So you take one of the percentages, which generates about $100,000 a year, and it's 25% of the 1%.
That doesn't work. Your number's got to be 4 million.
Yeah.
No, we collect $400,000 right now in hotel motel tax.
1% of 400,000.
No, it's one of the 4%. We charge 4% for hotel tax. So you take one of the 4%.
So it's 25%.
Yeah, it's 25% of the 4%.
Right.
But the way they do it, I think because other towns don't have law for 4%, so some charge 3%, some charge 5%. So you take 1% of the, however many percentages we charge, one of the percentages, I guess.
Well, it's not 1%, it's one of the percent.
Yes, it's one of them,
Yes.
sorry. It's one of the 4%.
Oh,
Right.
Okay, is that saying, is it?
now that makes sense.
So we see how many math majors we have on the council. All right. Everyone got that?
Yeah.
Very good. Continue.
all right, thank you. Related to that restructuring for municipal dues is a change in dues for hotels in those participating municipalities. Hotels in the coming year that reside within a participating municipality will no longer be charged a fee for membership in the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau. All hotels that reside within a participating municipality will be, in effect, members and will be promoted by the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau. That includes directly marketing the services at those hotels. It also means referral of leads for events and parties and weddings and that type of thing for those hotels. The current members of DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau here in Elmhurst include the Clarion Hotel and Waterford Banquet Room, Courtyard by Marriott, Extended Stay, Spring Hill Suites, Elmhurst City Center, Elmhurst College, Elmhurst Historical Museum, Elmhurst Park District, the Lazadro Museum, and York Theater. Some of those benefits that come to the city, the municipality, through its membership have included over 3,000 room nights in group business that have been directed to Elmhurst through the Bureau's sales team over the past 2 years. And in the past 4 years, the Convention and Visitors Bureau has saved Elmhurst over $25,000 in cooperative grant advertising. Our Visitor Tourism Office places a number of ads throughout the year, and I'll get to some of those ads in just a moment. Participating municipalities are also eligible for a directed video for that municipality that airs on the website and other platforms of the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau, their social media. The other account that I wanted to draw your attention to was 6045 Public Information Program, and by and large, that's directed for the paid ads that are done for the City of Elmhurst through the Visitor and Tourism Office. The Visitor Tourism Office targets two particular areas of the travel market. One of those is the leisure market, and ads have been placed in a number of leisure publications over the past year. There's a fall and winter and also a spring-summer getaway guide that appears in newspapers in the region. That's a cooperative venture that the city has partnered with DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau on. And that circulation is 500,000 newspaper inserts, including Chicago Tribune, but including a number of other newspapers in major Midwest and national markets. We also place ads in the Chicago Windy City Guide. This is probably the premier suburban monthly tourism guide. It's distributed in almost 400 hotel lobbies and in a number of non-hotel outlets in the entire area. And we also receive coverage on the website and web blasts that are done on a weekly basis through the Chicago Windy City Guide. Another publication was Midwest Destination Guide. It's published biannually by the Midwest Tourism Association, and it markets to leisure travelers, in Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, and the upper Midwest. That has a circulation of about 100,000 and is also distributed at newsstands in the Midwest. The second target audience that we have with the visitor tourism audience is the meeting and events planning market. And as you know, Elmhurst has a number of venues that are in the meeting and planning business. Places like Wilder Mansion, operated by the Park District, our hotels, Elmhurst College. They're seeking part of that market here in DuPage County. And we've marketed to that audience. The Daily Herald Business Ledger does a corporate event planning and meeting guide annually. It also sponsors a meeting and event planners fair that's held at Northern Illinois University annually. We've been represented at that event with a booth regularly. The office also does quite a bit of marketing and promotion for day visitors. We've placed ads in Northwest Quarterly magazine, which is a premier magazine for that area of the suburban market here in the Chicago area. Chicago Parent magazine has also been targeted for an ad in the past. It's typically placed in a special summer destination issue, and we market especially the museums. And in the past, some of the museums have participated in that ad placement. The office also, as I mentioned earlier, does a lot of relationship building here within Elmhurst with destinations and business groups. It also works closely with the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau to leverage our membership in that organization so that we're able to get as much out of it as possible in promoting not only the individual attractions and services here in Elmhurst, but also the city of Elmhurst as a good place to visit. So I'll be happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Director. Alderman Polomsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the information, Mr. Berghager. I have a few questions. First, I want one main question, I guess, first, some clarification. You mentioned that hotels would no longer be expected to pay a membership fee. Is that if the municipality they're a part of is a member?
That's correct. If, under the new dues structure, if a municipality is a member, the hotels that reside in that community are comped as members. If the municipality is not a member, those hotels will pay proportionally based on the hotel-motel tax that's collected out of them.
And my main question is, it appears that multiple entities are paying for the same benefit. For example, if you're talking about meeting space and Elmhurst College already has a membership and Elmhurst Park District does, they're bringing people to Elmhurst to meet and then to shop and dine. And maybe for day visitors, City Center has a membership and they would be bringing here to eat. I'm wondering how much overlap is there and how much is the city paying for that's already being handled by the other memberships?
Well, that's a good question, and there is definitely overlap. Obviously, if Elmhurst Park District is promoting the Wilder Mansion, for example, it in effect is promoting Elmhurst. If Elmhurst, as a municipality, is promoting the city of Elmhurst, typically those types of venues are being promoted. So it's not always to the same market in terms of some of that overlap. Our ads that have been run from the city of Elmhurst have focused on promotion of the city, the municipality, as opposed to individual venues. We really rely on the individual venues to promote themselves. Another approach or answer to that question is, I think, a similar question that DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau gets. Why should a hotel, for instance, in a community be a member if DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau is already promoting tourism for this area? And I would suggest that there are various layers of promotion and marketing that are being conducted, and the individual promotions that are done for hotels, for venues, and for destinations within the city are directed by and large to their audiences, to their markets, as opposed to a more general approach to marketing the city of Elmhurst as a good place to visit.
Continue.
Okay, thank you. I was wondering, and I know that there is not a representative from the Bureau here, but are you aware of other municipalities that may either have like a consortium membership, or perhaps where a hotel may, or planning to have the hotel pay a fee back to the city for a membership, or any sort of arrangement that allows us to, in a way, not have to pay $25,000?
I don't know of any type of arrangement. This is a transition period for the Bureau. It's just moving into that change this year, so I have not heard of that. As you know, the city collects a 4% hotel occupancy tax, and because the city is home rule, that revenue flows into the annual fund. In non-home rule communities, by statute, those funds are required to be expended for attracting visitors and tourists. That's not the case here. Something like that could be designed and addressed to our hotels. The hotels have been active in participating with the Visitor Tourism Office here in Elmhurst, and I believe are supportive of both the Visitor Tourism Office as well as the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Can we ask staff to take a look at how we might be able to share some costs, or see the full breadth of services that some of the other groups in town are using, please, to see where there is a gap, if we need to fill it, please?
We can, yeah. Mr. Burkhager, are the hotels also members, remaining as members in Elmhurst? Are they going to fall under what our membership as a city encompasses?
Under the new due structure, they would automatically receive the benefits if the city of Elmhurst is a member.
Okay. Does the staff understand what Alderman Plumsky is asking for? Very good. Alderman Gutenkopf.
Thank you. I want to stay on the topic of the DuPage CVB membership a little bit. And just as an aside, my organization is also a member of the DuPage CVB. I think I need to make that aware. We see great value in it, although the city that we're located in is a member as well, be that as it may. My question is something I picked up on your list of other members. Did you say that the Elmhurst Historical Museum has a separate membership in the DuPage CVB that is separate from this membership? And that...
The museum is comped. It's counted as a separate institutional membership, but we don't pay an institutional fee.
Well, I was going to say, as a city department, I would expect that would be covered under the city's
That's
overall
correct.
membership. Okay, that was my concern, was that we shouldn't be paying for two memberships. I think it's very valuable. I think one of the things that Mr. Burkhager talked about is the DuPage CVB's promotional aspect, that they do a lot to encourage visitors, tourism, conference, convention attendance in DuPage County, but they offer a variety of other services to their members as well, and it's not just about placing ads. I wonder if there's anything you'd like to say about some of the other services that you may have been able to use that they offer?
Well, this past year, I think one of the highlights, even here in Elmhurst, and I know speaking for Marlene, I believe she'd agree, was the Ryder Cup that took place at Medina in late September. DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau took a leadership role in booking rooms for that event. It was very active in the planning that went into the event. Here in Elmhurst, our hotels blocked almost 200 rooms, I believe, for the event, and sold out all the rooms during the event. Not only the blocked rooms, but the hotels were completely sold out. The Bureau assisted us in promoting Elmhurst at the event. We were able to put together a number of tote bags that were distributed, brochures and other information that was distributed to the press that was covering, the industry insiders who were attending the events. And anecdotally, I had a lot of feedback that the event was a success from the point of view of hotels here in Elmhurst, but also the restaurateurs here in Elmhurst for that week. So that's an example of the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau being active from the get-go in some event planning that takes place, not in Elmhurst, but it bleeds over into our community. Those types of events are coming up. I know there's a LPGA tournament, I believe in 2 years, that's already being planned.
Alderman Pezza?
Thank you, Mayor. You mentioned the 4% hotel tax. Just curious, do we know, in comparison to other DuPage County suburbs, if that's like an average going rate, or if that hotel tax is on target, or how we compare?
All I could say is it varies. Maybe.
I don't have specifics, but yes, I believe we are in line, and I honestly can't remember when we moved it from 3% to 4%, but at the time that was done, we were certainly in line with other communities. Okay. So it is something that we look at. They almost all have one.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Thank you, Director Berghager. All right, we're on to legal. City Attorney Storino. Page 172.
Good evening.
Good evening. Do you want to make a little overview for us?
To say just a few things. One is that we're approaching our 4-year anniversary in the city, and that's kind of a landmark for us. It's been a wonderful opportunity for Storino, Romello, and Durkin, and we've thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it'll be coming up in May of this year. And during that time, we've tried to provide good legal services to the city at a reasonable price. We've actually maintained that same hourly rate during the past 4 years to the city, for which we're pleased that we've been able to do that. On page 72, basically I'll let Marilyn carry most of the presentation, if that's what it's to be called. But just to point out that we provide the following. We provide the defense liquor, which is item, I think, the last number, 16. We provide labor counsel, which is 32. And we provide legal fees and additional counsel, which is 36. And that's pretty much the 36 is the general corporate work lumped together that we provide to the city of Elmhurst. On some occasions, we do have additional counsel that we retain to provide special services to the city, either because the city may have requested such special services, or we felt that it was appropriate to get other counsel because of either the appearance of a conflict or a conflict itself, and that hasn't occurred often, but it has occurred. We do not provide the DUI prosecutions and the prosecuting attorney. That is provided by a separate law firm.
All right, questions from the council. Alderman Braham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The largest question here is along the lines of looking at this page 172 and understanding, and maybe this is more for Director Gaston than Mr. Storino, but looking at this page, I've always understood before that some of our legal charges are throughout this budget book and not only on page 172, in this case this year. Do we have a summary, or would it be possible to actually get a summary of what are our total legal costs for the city of Elmhurst compared to what I believe is a subset on this page?
You're correct, Alderman. There are, for instance, by way of example, and Marilyn can chime in, there are TIF fees that would be directed to each individual TIF. I'm not certain how those could be broken out, but we could certainly take a look at that. But that would be an example of what you're saying. And it's true, there are, in fact, other legal services outside of what you see here on page 172.
Would that be a request that staff could follow through with and distribute to the council? Thank you.
You yield the floor, Alderman Bram, or you have other questions?
No, sir.
Alderman Gudenkauf?
Yeah, just a quick question. The line for liquor defense goes away this year. Why is that?
Prohibition.
Prohibition.
Very nice.
Line 16.
We're not going to have any problem with any liquor establishments in the city of Elmhurst this year.
You know, it's one of those line items that's fairly small, and we just felt there was really no reason to separate it out. So, yes, I'd like to say we have no liquor issues in the city, but it just means that it's going to be showing up in our 3036 line.
I will say that this past year, we have not had much at all in the way of liquor compliance issues, which is a good thing for the city.
Other questions? I just have a question myself. The legal fees and additional counsel, that's a combination of both what is paid to your firm and, for instance, there's some things we've talked about in real estate matters where we hire outside counsel.
That is correct.
Yes. And that would also be in this line?
It is.
Marilyn, when you do the analysis that Alderman Bram asked for, could you let us know what is outside counsel, what is through our own city attorney? Other questions on legal? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Storino. Board of Fire and Police Commission, oh, we're doing claims.
Page 173,
Yeah. All right.
claims, just the next page.
All right,
Say
page
that again, please.
173.
173?
These are you're going to present? Go ahead.
Yes, on that page, the claims, you see auto liability, general liability. These are the costs associated with essentially lawsuits against the city. And on this line would be attorney's fees, could be medical costs associated with a situation. Let's say it was a trip and fall type of situation, so you might have medical fees, you may have expert witness fees, you may have attorney's fees, and you would have settlements. Those are all costs that are going to be on this line. The numbers will go up and down, just depending on what's happened out there in terms of lawsuits against the city.
Questions? Yeah, some of these claims are not just personal injury, but they could be, we've had some real estate claims where they have fallen under the general liability.
Right. Just some major cases that I think one just settled, the McDade case. All those costs are going to be in these accounts.
McDade was exactly what I was wondering. So that's part of this 6028?
Yes.
Okay. No questions then on that? We'll move on now to,
I just have
I'm sorry, Dave.
just a
Alderman
quick
Gudenkauf.
question. What criteria do you use to estimate the budget for each year? Because I know it's so variable and so difficult, but you must have some standards.
That's generous. And this is some of the most difficult lines, because we do look at history, we get loss runs. All the costs that come through here are handled by our third-party administrators. So our estimate, we're pretty good on. We know what cases are out there. We know what we've spent so far. We can only guess going into the future, and a lot of it is cases that are still outstanding, that are moving through the system, that our third-party administrators attach costs to, estimate costs for us, and we will pick up those costs. So it's a difficult one to move on into the future on.
All right, thank you. Board of Fire and Police Commissioners, page 122.
The Board and Police and Fire Commissioners, they're responsible for the hiring and discipline of firefighters and police officers and promotional exams for the police department. As you see on that, as far as the full-time salary, that it's a portion of an HR person that is a liaison to the police, the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners. 3052 professional services is a bunch of different things. It's part of the firefighter testing. It's promotional for the police department. It's polygraphs and psychological examinations for the candidates.
Speak up, I can't hear you.
A little closer to the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, questions? Any questions? The only one I have is professional services. Is that down because we're not anticipating as much hiring and testing in the coming year? Or we're going from 30.
Well, we are doing some firefighter testing is starting right now, actually, so some of that might be on this year's actual budget rather than next year's budget.
All right, thank you. All right, any other questions? Then we'll move on. Thank you. Human Resources, page 126.
The Human Resources Department continues to support the city's mission and strategic planning by developing and managing employee resources, including staffing and recruitment, managing employees and labor relations, training, development of city staff, and compensation and benefits. Human Resources also administers the city's risk management program. Workplace safety audits, safety training are included, as well as identification, assessment, and prioritization of risk. For example, this year in equipment maintenance, there's going to be a mezzanine put up that's going to place the tires at a more ergonomic location, therefore hopefully reducing shoulder, neck, and back claims. The HR department also is a staff to the liaison to the board and police and fire commissions, facilitating the hiring of police officers and firefighters. They're also liaison to the insurance committee, which in 2012, the city, with the assistance of all labor groups, developed an insurance committee to evaluate the current health insurance benefit and ways of providing insurance in the most efficient manner. The outcome of the committee was the introduction this year of a high deductible health plan as an option rather than the PPO for employees. Almost 25% of the employee group moved from the PPO to the high deductible health plan. The high deductible health plan strives to reduce city costs by making the employee a better consumer and an advocate for their own health care. HR is also a liaison to the Wellness Committee. The City Wellness Program is run by a committee of employees represented by all departments, including the library, and they look at it holistically from everything from physical to psychological to spiritual and financial matters. Some of the things they've done this last year is the biometric screening, which helps identify what things the Wellness Committee should be focusing on. Weight loss programs, nutrition and health, wellness education, and flu shots. Additionally, this year, a new program that's starting out is called Visual Eating and Exercise Program, and this is designed to help participants get to a healthy weight, eat nutritionally, and exercise regularly. Highlights of the 2013 budget. You see in line item 3052 has an allotment for the compensation study, which could underway this fiscal year, but will run into the next 8-month budget cycle. Professional services also includes $15,000 for organizational-wide training to include performance management, employee development, safety, consumer service, or customer service, and harassment prevention. There's also $13,000 allotted in that line item for strategic planning and organizational development for the management team. I'd be glad to answer any specific questions.
Any questions? Alderman Bram.
More of a curiosity question, actually, in regards to the benefits, and you were talking about the health benefits. Does the city of Elmhurst offer, I don't know, discounts or any type of rewards for increasing their health in regards to maybe dollars going to a gym, or if you do work out regularly, you get a discount in your health benefits or anything along those lines? Which obviously, if the city employees are healthy, we would, I guess, technically supposed to get a lower insurance rate overall.
Which is true. The insurance is based on past history, past performance of the group. Some of the things you're actually talking about are goals and objectives for this year in the insurance committee. We've just started broaching those topics as far as insurance rates for smokers as compared to non-smokers and things of that nature. People that take the biometric screening as compared to those that do not. There are specific laws as far as you can't really, you can incentivize people, but you can't negatively impact people for not doing those things. So those are some of the things we're looking at, and they're on the docket for this year's insurance committee.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kopp, just to refresh my recollection, was the $138,000 expenditure in professional services a software package that we put in this year?
The largest number on that was the compensation study.
So when you say it's spread over 2 years, it's...
What'll happen is we'll take some of that money and we'll probably just carry it forward for the rest of that, for the next year, whatever we don't pay out this year.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything else? Very good. Information technology, page 128.
The IT department continues to manage the city's computer, data, and voice technologies, provides maintenance and repair service to all city employees and departments. In 2012, the IT processed 3.9 million emails, recycled 2,537 pounds of electronics, recycled 508 ink and toner cartridges, and reduced citywide desktop printers from 140 to 85, with plans to continue reducing that number. Based on the results of last year's NIU Center for Governmental Studies evaluation of the IT department, the organization of the IT department has been restructured. And a copy of that new organizational chart is on the dais and should replace your pages 33 and 34 in your budget book. And one of the largest benefits of that new structure change was creating the position of the IT supervisor. He supervises the day-to-day operations of that department, which therefore allows our IT manager to work more strategically on information technologies. One of the accomplishments of 2012 was the installation of a new copier system throughout the city, allowing the removal of many of the freestanding printers throughout the city. You will see that reflected in line item 4073 with a 30% drop in computer supplies, mostly due to reduction of printer and toner cartridges. Also, the IT department is overseeing the installation of a wireless mesh throughout the city. And the idea of this wireless mesh is for the SCADA system. It's going to allow our wastewater and our water production systems to communicate with each other. But at the request of the staff of the IT department, they asked about trying to build us out in a more robust system to allow when our inspectors go out in the field to be able to tie back into the network with a mobile device or an iPad. And also to allow us to possibly place cameras in different locations throughout the city, where in the past those cameras are put up as passive cameras. This way they'll be active cameras and be able to take that feed back to a monitoring location like the police department. You'll also see in 3098 there's funds to engage a consultant to evaluate the cost of establishing a wide area fiber network. Upgrading our wide area network to provide a larger bandwidth is becoming essential. With the large amounts of data and video that's being broadcasted over the network, the current bandwidth is becoming obsolete quickly. Also, in this fiscal year, we see under line item 8098, there's $145,000. The breakdown of this, there's a couple major components. $50,000 is for the replacement of the UPS in our main computer room. $50,000 is to investigate the possibility of an electronic sign at the underpass at Palmer Drive. And $10,000 is to build out conference rooms 2 and 4 with audio and visual to assist us in training, webinars, and video conferencing. We're seeing more and more of that. A lot of the interviews we're doing now, rather than bringing a person in from a long distance, we're doing it through video conferencing.
Just to clarify, when you say 50,000 to investigate the sign, it would be 50,000 if we decided to install the sign?
That's correct, right. Because it's the opportunity that if we find that it's the right thing to do, they have the money in there to be able to do it. Lastly, to draw your attention to capital outlay proposed for 2014 calendar year. It shows $980,000. And those significant dollars in the budget are the evaluation and the possible implementation of a new city enterprise resource plan, known as the ERP. And that was part of the NIU study. When they looked at it, they said, you know, we need to evaluate the current ERP and its effectiveness for today's organization. And over the next 8 months, we'll be evaluating that current system along with the possible alternatives, including one may just be to upgrade the current ERP system. But those funds are in there to allow us to change to ERP if that's what's found to be the most effective means of providing it.
All right. Questions from the Alderman. Alderman Bram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My main question on IT, and it's actually a small line item in the budget, but I'm asking this question from my experience in the private sector. On page 129, 50-25, telephone and maintenance, it seems like typically $10,000 is allocated to maintaining, I assume, the physical phones, the devices here at City Hall and throughout the city. I guess, what is the current phone system? Did we move to VoIP, voice over IP? Is that being considered as a viable option? What are we spending $10,000 every year on to maintain phones? Hopefully we're not throwing them on the floor and they're breaking and we need to replace that many of them. I know sometimes it gets frustrated here at City Hall, but I hope that we're not taking it out on our phones. I'm joking. But where are we going in regards to our phone service overall? I know that we totally, in the private sector, got rid of all of our landline phones and we went voice over IP. There's pluses and minuses to that, obviously, and what would be the cost. I did see in the overall capital expenditures for IT a line item, I think a couple years out, for $350,000. Is that to improve our phone system overall? And is that VoIP if we're not already at VoIP, or what's the direction for this?
We're currently not at VoIP, but that's what that money in 2015 is, to evaluate that. And when you talk about maintenance of the system, it's more than just the physical phones. I'll give you a great example. Just about a month ago, we lost our voicemail server here for a week. And it's located at the central office in downtown Elmhurst here for AT&T. AT&T, first of all, couldn't even find a technician to work on it. It was so old. When they finally found a technician, they had to go to another central office, steal parts off of a server there to repair ours. There's just, it's getting that old, the centric system we're using right now. But that's in 2015. VoIP may be the solution. VoIP is getting better every single day. There's a lot of different things you can do with a VoIP system as compared to what we're doing right now. We will evaluate all those and see where it goes from there.
But that's 8031 is the line item that has the new phone system in it.
Well, it actually goes out in 2015, so you won't see that in this budget book itself. You look at the capital.
If you look on page 91 of the capital expenditure budget.
It'll be under 8031 when the time comes, but that's just not out there.
You have the floor, Alderman Bram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
8098. It'll be on 8098 when in 2015. Right now, it's just in the 5-year capital plan.
The follow-up to that is along the lines. I mean, Mr. Kopp, you made the statement that we've had a big issue with the voicemail system. I happened to stop in at City Hall that day, which is critical, right, for our services, for all our residents. So wouldn't we consider, and obviously this isn't a discussion for today, but having it a couple years out, shouldn't we consider pulling that in compared to leaving it 2-3 years out? At least starting the discussion of what direction we should go, start that more like today compared to waiting a couple years out.
Yes, that's after that breakdown we had recently. That's one of the things the IT manager will be addressing. So that number may be moved up. We want to take a look at it and see where we're really at, what the costs are. VoIP, actually VoIP, if you would ask me 2 years ago about it, it's way better today than it was even 2 years ago. The reliability, the redundancy, a lot of people, a lot of times in the past, VoIP, if your cable was down, your VoIP was down, but now there's so much redundancy and backup and built up in those systems are much more reliable than they were in the past.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Alderman Dunn?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Looks like our budget for MIS is about $3 million a year, but I know that then next year, this coming year is an 8-month year. There are line items in other departments for information system charges. What is the additional over and above this, or are those actually balanced out and are showing up in these numbers?
Yeah, basically, if you take the bottom line item from MIS, it's proportionally shared with each department.
Okay.
And
so this is split?
Yeah, it's based on the number of computers in your department, and you get that proportional share of the total of this information systems budget.
Based on the number of individual PCs? Okay.
I think, is there a graph in here? Is there a chart in the book?
Yeah.
I believe there's a chart in the book that shows exactly how it's separated. Page 376.
Take your word for it.
Right. Are you done, Alderman Dunn?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Alderman Bram.
Thank you. Again, this is more about maybe the future compared to today, but is the city still sticking with today desktops? Are they transferring over to laptops for all employees? Are we pursuing something along the lines of, iPads or any type of device like that for the city? I know that I've seen a handful of employees have those type of devices, but what direction overall are we going? Are we going to a cloud system at all to save on some of, sharing disk space compared to buying laptops or computers with large disk space?
That's a question that we're asking ourselves constantly, which is the better alternative. I gave a great example right now is our email server. Right now we're on Novell group-wise. A lot of municipalities have looked at the Gmail account, but when you weigh the cost as to the security, it's like 6 of one, half dozen of the other, which is the best alternative. Some of the things as far as calendar sharing and things of that nature are better with one than the other, but we constantly look at that because of the cost of having our own servers, the redundancy of that, as compared to some of these large networks out in the cloud where it's saved in multiple locations. But as of right now, as far as our PC, the replacements due again in 2016, we'll evaluate that. As far as iPads, we're using that technology more and more every day. Our inspectors are starting to use it more. They're able to gain their information without having to come back to the city hall to get that information. We're looking at the possibility, every year we take our plans and our plan review. In fact, we're starting to require builders to return those in, to submit those electronically. So the review gets done electronically. Those plans are now on our network. We're working on the possibility, once this wire mesh does go up, hopefully the plan is that our inspectors will be able to take the iPad out into the field and access any of those plans while they're out in the field. Our fire inspectors are using them right now. The firefighters do their annual inspections, do them on iPads. They come back into the station, they automatically link up to get that information in the firehouse, firehouse software. So we are working on technology all the time. We continue to upgrade it. We're continue to research. I mean, that's one of Mike's, his strategic plans is to research what is the best alternative for the city.
Thanks.
Other questions? I'd just personally like to say I worked a lot with Mike Stenson over the last year, and he's a true asset for our city, and your service is very much appreciated. Okay, that takes care of information technology, planning, zoning, economic development, page 130.
The area of planning, zoning, economic development continues to focus on building a strong tax base for the city of Elmhurst. The focus continues to be on retaining the existing businesses, attracting new businesses, and generating consumer interest in the Elmhurst businesses that are here currently. As part of those efforts, Economic Development Commission continues to expand its role. We saw in 2012 the EDC went from 12 to 15 members to include representation from a large variety of professional backgrounds. The EDC has performed 360 retention visits in 2010. The EDC reviewed the Hahn Street RFP and made recommendations for strengthening the financial requirements for the proposed projects, and is currently assisting in the evaluation of the North York Street Plant RFP, as well as assisting in development and evaluation of the North York TIF, and the recommendation for York and Vallette and Riverside Drive TIF study areas. Elmhurst continues to garner a lot of interest from businesses and developers. Last year there were 61 new businesses opened up in Elmhurst, with those businesses ranging from Hamburger Jones to Meatheads to Chick-fil-A later this year, and the expected opening of Mariano's Fresh Market in June of 2013. And just the announcement of Mariano's has generated quite a bit of interest in North York TIF. We're constantly getting inquiries about that district from different developers and businesses. The city's been working with Elmhurst College along with Choose DuPage in development of a possible innovation/tech center for Elmhurst. And we've also been working with the Elmhurst College's Center for Professional Studies and their dean of their MPA program for research initiatives to assist Elmhurst in coordinating and developing marketing ideas both for business recruitment and consumer spending in Elmhurst. As you look through the Planning and Zoning Economic Development budget, I'd like to highlight line item 3012, which is consultant fees, and also on the dais you will see a breakdown of those consultant expenses for Charles Van Slyke, Ken Bartels, and Feinzall Community Marketing. Line item 3052, professional services, $50,000. That's $25,000 for the continuation of the GOTA campaign and $25,000 for any possible TIF services that may be needed over the next fiscal year. Last, I'd like to draw your attention to the line item 6025, public information programming. You will see an increase in this line item, which will be designated for marketing programs with a focus on economic development for such possible efforts as broker events, broker tours, and possible consumer email campaigns.
Alderman Morley?
Mike, the last thing you mentioned, you said line item 6025?
Yeah, public information programming.
6045.
Oh, 45, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Alderman Pezza?
I would like to have 3052, the $50,000 as a circle back.
All right, that's 30. All right, line 3052.
Is that under consultant fees?
Professional services, the got it.
What was the other 25 for?
TIF services if needed, and 25 for the GOTA campaign.
There's a 3052. All right, other questions? Alderman York?
Quick question, follow-up. TIF services, what would be an example of those?
Any kind of analysis that may need to be done on looking at other areas of Elmhurst with a consultant.
Alderman Braham.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. What's it called? I just lost my place here. Public information program. I know you touched on it already. Can you dive down a little bit deeper on, why we would see such a large increase? What type of marketing campaigns would go from whatever 2,000 this year up to 17 proposed on an 8-month cycle?
One example would be just an email campaign, a consumer email campaign. Right now, there's a broker email out, and I think many of you might have gotten a broker email today. For an email campaign to attract customers to the downtown or to allow businesses to be part of an email campaign, some of those are approximately about $1,000 a month to operate one of those. The other thing is we've got broker events. The next broker event's going to be May 16th, actually. You're all invited. But every time we have one of those, we're sort of beg, borrow, and stealing for money. We will continue to get sponsors for those events. Choose DuPage will sponsor a large portion of it, and to allow us to have the ability to do some of those things, which right now there's no funding for any of the economic development commission type stuff.
So an email campaign is more than just having a contact list and someone from the city sending out the promotional or marketing.
It's a large coordination effort as far as to be able to get that information from the businesses that are advertising whatever it may be that month, or what are the highlights of that month, or what are the events for that month. It's organizing all that, developing into a format and sending it out and recruiting people for the email campaign.
So would this be a third party or someone currently on city staff, or who's doing this?
It'll probably be a third party.
Third party being no one that we have hired today?
Well, it could be, or it could be someone different. I mean, that would have to be evaluated.
Thank you.
Alderman Gutenkopf?
Yes, thank you. I just want a clarification. Choose DuPage is the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau, is it not?
No, it's not. Choose DuPage is a separate entity throughout the county. I believe DuPage County does support a lot of it, and a lot of it's privately funded. And their mission is to bring business into DuPage County.
Aren't they affiliated with the CVB?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Actually, they may be some connection there, but they're more about bringing business into DuPage County, not as much as bringing visitors and tourism into the county.
Thank you.
Greg Bedelov's the executive director.
All right, any other questions or comments on this line? All right, very good. We're on to building, page 142.
Yeah, in 2012, the Community Development Department issued over 2,900 permits with a total construction value of almost $83 million and collected just under $2 million in permit fees. There were over 7,000 construction-related inspections were performed, and some of the more notable projects underway in 2012 were Mariano's, the new cancer center at Elmhurst Hospital, 95 new single-family homes, and 28 new townhomes down near Elm Creek. Code enforcement addressed 1,170 code violations and had over 5,700 actions taken through inspections, follow-up inspections, and adjudication. We expect to see similar brisk construction activity, especially in respect to single-family homes in 2013. In the area of planning, some of the more high-profile cases worked on was the Addison Street deck, Chick-fil-A, the new bike plan, High Street, redevelopment of the Berteau site, and the North York TIF. Also coming soon will the adoption of the most current model code, which is the 2012 International Code Council series of codes. Bruce DeBeal, the building commissioner, is in the process of reviewing these codes and writing out local amendments to those codes. We're hoping by late spring we'll have those amendments completed, and we'll bring it forward with the adoption through the adoption process of the new code. Highlights of 3012 consultant services, those are the plumbing inspections that we pay to our independent contractor, who's the plumbing inspector. And then 6011, you'll see an increase in the training budget, and that's to allow the building commissioner to attend the national conference.
All right, questions? Alderman Healy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question about something you mentioned, not necessarily related to building. Chick-fil-A, originally when it was announced, I thought it was going to be 2014. Did I hear you say it's now going to be later this year?
A lot depends on how the process goes. They are in a public hearing process right now. They will be moving forward. They will actually March 14th, they'll be on the agenda again for the zoning and planning. As soon as they can get everything moved forward, they will continue moving it forward. It may be late 2013, early 2014.
Great, thank you.
Alderman Braham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two items. One that's not on well, indirectly it is on the line items here. But the first one being page 142, line item 60-11. You touched on the conferences and the seminars, and the reason for the significant increase, all relative, is for the building commissioner to attend the national conference. I know this is a small blip on the radar in the grand scheme of things, especially when it comes to our budget, let alone the budget for this department as a whole, going from 2,700 to 4,000. But anytime I see conferences, an increase is always a concern to me. What benefit, what return on investment could the city of Elmhurst expect on our building commissioner going to this national conference? I don't know where it's at. I think that's irrelevant. But what are we planning on getting out of him attending this conference?
I think for all of our department heads, when they attend the national conferences, a lot of it is just innovation. what's being done out there, what are people doing, the networking, what are they doing that we should be doing? It gives a possibility to evaluate what other municipalities are doing and allow us to be part of that innovation and bring it back here and make it work for the city of Elmhurst.
Has the building commissioner or anybody attended this conference or any other major conference in the past, and what type of innovations have we seen here brought back to the city of Elmhurst?
We up until probably back 2008, it was pretty standard for the department heads to attend the national conferences. Exact examples, I mean, I'll tell you, one of the things when I was the fire chief was the wireless radio alarm system. That was something I picked up from going to other conferences. But as far as the building commissioner, Bruce, will probably tell you something if you. I have been to about half a dozen. These guys a microphone. It's being recorded.
I have attended about a half a dozen national conferences in my 20-year career here. I haven't been to a conference in 5 years, and it is important to stay current with other building officials throughout the country. There are training opportunities there as well, where I get continuing education units. I carry 17 ICC certifications, and in order to continue to carry those certifications, you need about 45 hours of continuing education every 3 years. So that's all part of it. Plus, the codes are so voluminous and deep. Interacting with your peers and understanding what are the important issues is important. This year, the conference is in New Jersey, not one of my favorite places to go to. But like I said, I haven't been to one in 5 years. If you want to make that 6, I understand. But I think it is important to maintain a degree of professionalism.
Thank you. The biggest thing is not whether you should or should not go, and it's nothing personal, it's in regards to just an increase, almost, well, not double, but a significant increase in the grand scheme of things here. I think you shed some light in regards to some continuing education credits. I think that is beneficial, and if we're getting that out of it, I think that's definitely a plus for the city as well as yourself. My second question, or maybe it's more of a comment, is Assistant City Manager Kopp and City Manager Grabowski and I had a conversation last time we talked about the budget. One of the things that I just want to point out, and something to consider in maybe the following calendar year, is how we could become more of a proactive code enforcement community overall. I know that we don't have the personnel for that today by any means, but I think if one message I want to send is I would like to see Elmhurst becoming more proactive compared to reactive. And I believe, and I think I understand correctly, that it's currently because of a staffing issue, because we have such a small staff that we can't do that. But just, I wanted to plant a seed today talking about these line items on, if we can increase part-time staff, or is there a different means that we can go about to become more of a proactive community compared to reactive? So no need to respond to that, but I just wanted to plant the seed going forward.
Thank you.
Alderman Molnar and Alderman Hipskin.
I just want to make a comment about the national conference. I actually think it's a great idea. I mean, it's about time that we're able to do that. And Bruce, we're privileged to have somebody with the certifications that you have, and we're lucky in Elmhurst to have that. And we have a lot of staff who have those types of certification, not to the level that you do, but this is the only way you can maintain that, is to have those good connections and learn what's going on nationwide. So if we have that opportunity, I think it's a great thing for us to be able to do.
Thank you.
Alderman Hipskin.
Well, Bruce, now that we have you up here, Alderman Bram talked about being proactive, code enforcement, and possible part-time employees. We don't see on a daily basis what you see, within the department and the sub-departments within that. Thinking out of the box, if there is part-time help that could alleviate either, a seasonal rush or something like that, keep that in mind, think out of the box so we can, always deliver the services that we have been, and where. you know, or if it's needed or not. But thinking outside of the box, if there is some seasonality to different factors and within, you know, please feel free to bring that up throughout the ranks.
I will. Thanks.
Bruce, you picked up a new certification in the last year, didn't you?
My most recent certification was a certified plumbing code official.
Okay, good. Okay, very good. I think we're through then, if no other questions on building. Municipal utility fund on page 215 or 216.
I could go in a bad direction.
Director Hughes.
Evening, Mayor, City Council. If I could just real briefly, I thought I might take a moment to talk a little bit about the structure of the department and then also just a quickie highlight. I have with me tonight Gary Smith, who I think you all know, and then also Chris Dufert and Dan Rosenwinkel. The department is set up such that you have water production, and then we also have wastewater treatment. We have water delivery, and we have wastewater collection. Dan handles the water production, which is the elevated tanks, the reservoirs, the pumps involved in that, and he handles the wastewater treatment plant, which is the other end of the life story of a drop of water. And so, which again is pumps and facilities. And so, Chris, on the other hand, handles the distribution system for the water, and then ultimately then the collection of the water after you've all used it. And but interestingly enough, you know, for instance, Dan and Chris are very heavily involved in hands-on operations. This weekend, Dan was in as we had excess flow out at the plant, and over this past winter, Chris reports we've had 83 water main breaks. So they're pretty involved on the front line services. So, but just to kind of, as you go through the budget, that's the breakdown of everything. Well, my part of the municipal utility fund is that water production and then distribution and water collection system and treatment. And just real quick highlight, we do have the new digester, which I'm sure you've all been seeing in the monthly reports, will be coming online in June. You'll be seeing your invitation for the ribbon cutting. But sort of interesting because it does a number of things. One, it adds capacity to the plant, which will allow us to handle processes which the EPA is contemplating in the future. You know, that in of itself is a good thing. But there's some other benefits out of the project that we also had. Part of the project was purchasing and installing a new boiler system. The digester requires heat to keep it, particularly in the winter months, to keep it active. And also part of the project was installing a generator. Generator obviously used to supply electricity to portions of the plant. But both of those items, the boiler and the generator, are dual fueled. They can run off of natural gas or they run off of methane. Methane is the byproduct that the process produces, so we got plenty of it. So we will be running both of those when needed off of the methane, which we estimate will allow us not to return any methane over the year to the environment, normally done through flaring it off. And so both of those, we're recapturing, we're not only reducing the methane being released, but we're also reducing our reliance on natural gas. So a couple of really mutually beneficial factors there. And in addition, the generator allows us to peak shave, run it at the time when the electrical rates are the highest, daytime in the summer, and that type of stuff, and power the plant in a much more economical way. So some side benefits as we go through these types of projects, we're always looking for economical, environmental, positive things to do. So hats off to Gary and his group for developing this plan in about 3 months from conception to construction, but overall a very good plan. So with that, I'll take questions.
Thank you, Director. Alderman Healy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My quick question on the methane. I know that the boiler and the generator ran off methane. I wasn't aware that we're estimating that it will eliminate our discharge of methane. Is it methane that gives the plant the specific odor that people in the area sometimes have to deal with?
That's the plant next door.
It's but it is a methane.
It is a methane,
But
correct.
the Salt Creek facility is still releasing methane, but we won't be.
Could he come up to the mic?
You have to come up to the mic, Gary. First, the studio audience can hear you, but not the folks at home.
I apologize.
You don't have to sit down.
We built another digester that will go into service probably in about 3 months, and the idea.
You're a little closer.
The idea would be that in the summer months, when the demand is lower, we can use that, divert that methane to electricity production. So
Converse in the winter.
in the wintertime, if we didn't use methane to heat the digesters, we'd be buying Nicor gas to heat that up.
So we won't be releasing any methane once everything's online.
Well, this is a long-term project, and it's a matter of balancing seasons and equipment. But the idea of that we have going forward, going to the sustainability question, is to be able to, when we buy equipment that has a dual use, to be able to capture and use all of the methane to produce energy.
And so part of what we've done, part of Gary's plan is, as with this digester, we're increasing our demand for using methane in addition to, producing it. We every time we can, we'll find something that is dual fueled and hopefully be able to burn it. So I guess to be totally clear, I'm not saying there won't be a day where we won't burn methane, but by creating more demand for it, we really don't, we hope at some point in the future we wouldn't need to waste any of it.
And this is a phased approach. What we're trying to do is, once we get the infrastructure built, then we can look at additional feedstocks that'll enable us to really produce more methane as we go forward to be able to supply the energy we need and have less, be less dependent on the grid.
Thank you.
Other questions? Alderman Hipskin?
Actually, this is for Mike Kopp, and it would be great to get an article in the front page on that sustainability when the time is right as a phased project, because that's really cool. I mean, that is that's very cool stuff. So at the right time, I'd love to see an article written on that so the public can see it.
Alderman
I'd like to
Palomsky?
add, I think we're going to hear an update next meeting about that. So I agree with you, and I think we're going to hear some great updates, and hopefully we'll get some articles on that too. So
Thank you.
Alderman Wagner?
Curious minds want to know. I'm sure we're going to get updated next week, Mike. But the excess production of electricity using the methane, would that just be utilized for the wastewater treatment plant? Or are we going to be able to store it and?
Yeah. No, unfortunately, it's got to be used right at that time, and we can't sell it back to the grid, but it keeps us from buying it from the grid.
Right. Okay. Thanks. Look forward to the presentation next week.
Other questions? Well, the council will soon hear, as we learned in the Finance Committee, the anaerobic digester is a term that will be so last fiscal year, because comminutor, I think, is the new word that we're going to be talking about.
It's the new black.
Stay tuned for that, right? Okay.
There you go.
All right, thank you very much on that. We're on to the police department. Or do we have more? I think that's correct? Yeah. Chief Ruth. Deputy Chief Benico. Chief, is this your first one?
Yes, it is.
Welcome.
With Elmhurst.
Following the treatment plant, so.
Yes.
Joke here.
Good evening. The Elmhurst Police Department is tasked with the responsibility to enforce all ordinances and police regulations of the City of Elmhurst, the laws of the State of Illinois, and to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. It is the mission of the Elmhurst Police Department to do our best to safeguard all people in the City of Elmhurst and to ensure the quality of life for all through effective and efficient delivery of law enforcement services. It remains our commitment to provide the best level of law enforcement services in response to the ever-changing needs of our community by providing justice, equality, fairness, honesty, integrity, legality, and dedication, both for the police department and the public for which we serve. In 2012, the Elmhurst Police Department was staffed with a budgetary approval of 68 sworn full-time police officers. Year 2012 served as a point of change with the police department, with the retirements of 4 officers and the appointment of a new police chief. Throughout the year, the police department was challenged with staffing levels that were below our authorized strength. In addition, some supervisory positions were not immediately filled last calendar year. The Elmhurst Police Department responded to 16,259 911 calls for service in calendar year 2012. And this was up slightly, very slightly, from the 2011 totals of 16,075. In 2012, the total service workload for the department was 42,917. Looking at calendar year 2012, generally, crime was down in key areas such as burglary and in theft, deception, aggravated assaults, and aggravated battery, and damage to property. There was a slight increase in theft of vehicle parts and an increase in armed robbery. The increase in armed robberies were attributed to 4 bank robberies and 3 gas station robberies, which occurred in the city. Suspects have been identified and some charges are pending with the FBI on at least 2 of the 4 bank robberies. The gas station robbery suspect was arrested by Elmhurst police immediately following the event. Other suspects have been tentatively identified, and the investigation in those cases continue. For this budget year of 2013, the police department is looking to be more community-based and interactive with our residents. Consistent with the areas that were identified in the citizen survey, which was issued September of 2012, the police department will have a greater emphasis in neighborhood patrols and visibility. Officers will be engaging our young people in the schools, as well as in neighborhoods and local area parks. The police department will be implementing a speakers bureau where police officers and detectives will provide community presentations on a variety of crime prevention topics to meet the needs of local groups and the business community. And again, by working in partnership with the community, the police department can fulfill our mission in providing superior public safety services and making Elmhurst a better place to live and to work. Our goal for this year was to come in with a flat budget, and we're fortunately able to do that. There is one area that I would like to highlight, and that comes under repairs and maintenance. There's an increase at page 145 of about $30,000, and that's going to be for gutters for our police facility. They're leaking pretty badly. The building is 22 years old, and we've pushed this repair out at least 1 or 2 years, and that's something that we're really going to have to attend to. With that said, I'll be glad to answer any specific questions that any of you may have.
Alderman Bram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Page 144, line item 30-18, DUCOM. There's no increase in this line item for the 8-month budget cycle. But my curiosity comes from the standpoint of, it seems like DUCOM has taken on more communities, so I would think since we're sharing the cost more with more communities, that we would actually be charged less or at least stabilize over a couple of years, since DUCOM has a greater revenue base with all these other communities compared to, say, 5-10 years ago. Do we see any of that happening in the near term? Because it doesn't seem like it's happened, even though I think at least in the past couple of years, Ducom's absorbed a couple more communities, right?
Yes, they have. Ducom, as far as the police department billing goes, bills us at a rate of per sworn officer. We've experienced no decreases with Ducom. And at this point, there's no reason to believe that we will experience any in the future. That is a question that I do have with the Ducom staff. They are looking at trying to expand and bring other agencies in. Last year, they brought in Oak Brook. So, right. But at this point, we're kind of at their mercy. Elmhurst has been a member of Ducom since November of 1974, one of the founding agencies. The cost for the technology, I mean, the other side to that is that we ride the coattails of their technology. So every 3 to 5 years, when there needs to be CAD updates, major councils, increases in personnel and insurance and pensions and those issues, we're not hit as hard. So basically, we have little say-so in terms of their billing at this point, other than one vote on the board.
Okay. The reason why I ask is because I do understand technology advances, and it's definitely a large expense. And I know Ducom has done upgrades over the past, 3 to 5 years. But at the same time, they're also taking on more communities. So I would think that would either level out our cost or maybe even, crazy enough, decrease our cost. But I guess no sign of that in the near future.
Well, some of the things is the cost hasn't gone up as great as it would have been, and there's some more depth in our dispatching too. That's the one thing that we're getting better dispatching services by these other communities coming in because they're adding dispatchers, adding depth. Where it would have been just one dispatcher on duty or maybe 2, now there may be 3 or 4 on the, like say, with fire channels, for instance, where before the number of calls come in, they couldn't get to each call as quickly as they can now. So there are some benefits of them moving in. Other departments coming on.
Just a side note, partly humorous, but so to all the residents out there, don't be afraid to call 911 because we're paying for it.
That's true.
Additional sets of eyes and ears for the police. We need all the help we can get.
All right, other questions? Alderman Healy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One comment and then one question. First, the comment, Chief, I just want to let you know that I know I've received many positive comments from residents who have definitely noticed the increased presence around schools. A couple of residents called me on the day where our people were among the schools, and they thought, what's going on? Did something happen? Why they're there? And it's, no, they're there because we want them there. So that's a great thing, and residents are definitely noticing. Second question, 2 years ago, we had problems with the St. Patrick's Day Parade. I know with the efforts of Deputy Chief Panico, Deputy Chief Gavitan, the mayor, Alderman Wagner, a big effort was made around the bars. We had no incidents that I'm aware of last year, much nicer weather last year. Anything this year, any problems, any concerns this year?
All in all, relatively quiet and peaceful.
Very good. Thank you.
And Alderman Wagner did make a big effort around the bars, so appreciate that. All right, other questions?
That was my birthday.
Oh, yes, happy birthday. St. Patty. All right, police. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Administration, elected officials, pages 118 through 121.
The only comment I want to make on that, let me look at the page here, I'll get the number for you, is 3052 professional services. You'll see an increase in that line item, and that is for strategic planning purposes to hire professional service to help City Manager Grabowski and the City Council develop a strategic plan for Elmhurst.
For which plan was that?
That's for 3052 professional services.
Okay. I mean, was the planning for a certain topic?
Strategic planning.
Just strategic,
yeah.
Okay.
He's working on a consultant at this time, actually, so hope to hear something soon.
Alderman Bram?
Page 121, line item 1002, part-time, and this is the elected officials department, if you would. One, I want to mention that we don't get paid like Chicago aldermen get paid. We get paid about $2,400. I think it's $2,400 a year for the alderman itself. But the thing is, when I was looking in Chapter 2 for a different referral I made, I did notice that there is a code that states that we're supposed to review elected official salaries every 4 years. Is the review of the budget every year considered that review informal or indirect as it may be? Or should we be actually doing a every 4-year review? I'm not promoting that myself. I don't want an increase in my salary, but I'm just kind of curious on if this is checked off by the informal review we're doing every year for the budget.
Sure. Sure. I don't have an answer for you on that, but we can look into that.
Alderman Pezza.
Thank you, Mayor. I've heard mention that aldermen have waived their pay, and I'm just curious is that reflected in this budget, or how does that work with elected officials waiving their pay?
We always budget for every elected official to receive what the code indicates, but if I do not have the information, if I don't have a social security number and I don't have the paperwork, I can't set that particular elected official up, then you will see us coming in under budget on that line.
So it is something that is an option to just waive the pay and not take the pay
Well,
out.
I can only say is if I don't get the information, I can't pay the person. So I guess from that standpoint, you would say yes.
Okay, thanks.
That would throw the budget off by $2,000 if you waive. All right. Alderman Braham?
Yeah, just a question on that. I thought I understood the ordinance to state that that actually is not possible to be done, that every alderman needs to be paid. I understand if you don't have the information, there's nothing you can do about it. But I thought the ordinance stipulated that we must receive the pay. We could donate it to charity. We can do whatever we want with it. But I thought that every alderman needed, I shouldn't even say alderman, every elected official needed to receive payment.
And that may be what the code book says, but again, if I don't have the information, I cannot force a paycheck on somebody. I can't cut a paycheck.
What a problem.
So, you know, so.
Just curious.
Okay. I mean, but that would be something if somehow, I'm not sure, frankly, I'm not sure how one enforces that. It may be in the code book, but I don't know that there's any penalty attached to that. So.
Fair enough.
All right, any other questions under this line item? Very good. We move on now to finance. Pages 123, 125. Our Finance Director, Gaston, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. The Finance Department, as you may expect, handles all aspects of accounting for all the assets of the city, all the dollars that come in and out. We also handle all the utility billing, and that utility bill comes out every 2 months and includes the water, sewer, and rubbish charges. The parking system is also the administration part of the parking system is handled by the Finance Department. Of course, the Police Department officers and service officers can issue the parking tickets, but when it comes to the collection of those tickets and any questions about them, they come through the Finance Department. We also, as you know, coordinate the whole budget effort and also the audit for the city. One thing I want to mention, you don't see it here in the finance budget, but it's part of the Finance Department, is utility billing. In utility billing, we have 2 customer service representatives. We had an opening this past summer, and city manager challenges us to try and look at things a little bit more innovatively and look at it differently. And in this case, we did not fill this position with a full-time person. We filled it with a contract staffing person. And that really has saved the city a substantial amount of money. That position is actually split among the municipal utility fund and the parking system because that's what they do. So you don't see that here in the Finance Department, but in those budgets, you see a new line item that's contract staffing, and that's where this position is now budgeted, is in those other 3 departments. So I think that's just one way we're trying to control costs and keep looking at positions and keep the service to the customer. And so far, that has worked out very well. I also want to point out in the budget 2 other things. Let me get on the right page. One on page 123, line 4031, $12,000. That's for a piece of equipment, a new mail folder and inserter machine, just to replace something that we already have. The other thing I want to point out on page 124, and it's very similar to what you're seeing in other 6011 seminars and training lines, is in the current year and the next 2 years, you see that line item go up. It's because we are beginning to go to national conferences. In this year, the national conference for GFOA was in Chicago. We still went to it. And there are 3 of us in the department that go to the conferences. Tom and I will go to the GFOA National Conference, and Peg Orasanen, our accounting manager, will go to the HTE National Conference. That is once a year. She is a key in terms of her coordination of our whole general ledger system with HTE. So she does go to that national conference. So that's why that line item is going up, and for all the good benefits that Bruce Dubiel already mentioned.
And for those not in the Finance Committee, HTE is our vendor.
Right. HTE is our software vendor for our general ledger package.
All right, questions? Alderman Hipskin?
What awards have we won recently?
Well, we're still waiting to hear the next one, but I'm sure we're going to get it. The certificate for excellence in financial reporting, it should be hopefully the 24th year on that one. And the budget award, we have 6 years in a row on that. So, thank you.
Alderman Wagner, then Alderman Dunn.
Thank you, Marilyn, and thank you, Tom. You guys do a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Just more of curiosity, once again, line item, page 123, line item 3005, the banking expenses went up $13,000. You're estimating it to go up anyway. Just for the layman's, what are the banking expenses?
Thank you for asking that, because I did mean to mention that. Most of that increase is credit card service charges. And as we see a greater use of credit cards all across the board, whether it's a parking ticket, a water bill, you're paying a real estate transfer tax, you get building permits, those can be, sometimes thousands of dollars are coming on, and vehicle stickers, that's a significant amount. I would estimate of all the city's transactions in dollars, 15 to 20% are paid for with credit card, and the fees probably average in the neighborhood of 3%. It's a little bit difficult to get a handle on, because nobody has just a plain credit card. And every credit card, if you have miles, if you have points, if you have this, you have that, that fee is greater for that, because somehow those points have to be paid for. And at this situation, at this particular point in time, the city does not charge that fee. In some places, you get charged 3% or some convenience fee for being able to use a credit card, and we are not at that point yet. But that's a big piece of that increase.
Great.
Alderman Dunn?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I know we're just about to go paperless up here on the dais, and I can't recall the exact savings that were expected, maybe 10 or 20 hours a week, plus perhaps some paper charges. Is that reflected in this budget, those savings?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that we have that in here, and we will check on that as one of our items. That's a good question.
Alderman York.
I'll take a stab at it. There was a retirement out of the mayor's and manager's office too.
That's true.
That was not refilled in anticipation of this occurring.
Doesn't look like this salaries are going
Well,
down.
it's not. It may not be in the.
It's not in the finance
It's not in the finance department.
Yeah, it's in admin department.
I believe that's correct. All right, other questions? Alderman Healy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's going to be a circle back anyway, but I looked at that and saw the budget head count didn't look like it had changed. Can we address that during the circle backs if that
Sure.
was removed from the budget, or is it budgeted and not filled at this point?
Right, okay, let's do a circle back and we'll come back to you on that.
Thank you.
Other questions for the finance line item? All right, we won't do claims again. We'll go to senior services, page 174. I don't know that we need a presentation necessarily, or do you have?
But I can just give you a little bit of background on each of the line items. The first one, the senior, this is the DuPage Senior Citizens Council. And every year they request a grant, they request funds from the city to support their operations that are specifically for Elmhurst residents. Since 2009, the city has contributed $32,000 a year. What that contribution is used for is Meals on Wheels and the annual chore days where seniors are assisted with upkeep of their homes to allow them to stay in their homes. So that's what those dollars are used for. The disabled taxi subsidy, that is the same as, in terms of what the subsidy is, it's the same as the senior taxi subsidy. You see it has gone up significantly this year. And the reason for that is there is a new taxi company who really caters to individuals with disabilities. And we had some residents that used that service and asked that company become licensed with the city so that they could have benefit of this program. So we have one new taxi company that really focuses on that service. The Seniors Assistance Program is through Metropolitan Family Services. They are the people who work with Elmhurst residents, actually have offices here on the first floor and conduct different meetings, but they usually meet one-on-one. They also do home visits with Elmhurst seniors. They also request dollars every year in this neighborhood of $67,000 for their services. That's probably about a third of the cost of the service they give to Elmhurst residents, Elmhurst senior population. And that's been a consistent amount. They have not increased their request for the last 10 years. The senior taxi subsidy, that is the program that the senior pays $1.40 one way, and the rest up to whatever the cost of that ride is within Elmhurst. It has to be within Elmhurst borders. The city subsidizes. You can see by the dollars, that's a very popular program. It's well used by our seniors. The next two, the Youth Commission and Senior Citizens Commission, are modest budget amounts, and they will be for honorary plaques. And it may be for the Senior Citizen Commission, it's buying paper because we send out flyers for them for some of their programs that they have.
Alderman Palomsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there a time at which the council or a committee looks at the needs, or through the Senior Commission of the Senior Citizens Council grant, would we know if we allocated more funding, would more people be reached, or is there some way that we can know if we're missing some residents, if the criteria was changed? I just want to be sure that if we are making adjustments in the budget, if we can do something to make a big impact.
No, this is a program run by Metropolitan Family Services. It just so happens that it is housed here with the city. In the past, it hasn't been city direction in terms of instructing them on what we feel they should do. They do try and make themselves present where they can. I think they meet, yeah, the police are still here, with the SALT group and try and get more visibility wherever they can so that seniors know that they have this resource here. They do have their own marketing program because, as you know, Metropolitan Family Services is a very large organization, so they service many communities. I can certainly try and provide you with more information about the services.
So the 32,000, is that what they request? I know that's what we're holding at.
The 32,000 that's a different organization.
Well, okay, I'm asking about the, let me ask, 6006, the Senior Citizen Council grant.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So
I was answering the wrong line item. I apologize. The Senior Citizen Council grant, the DuPage Senior Citizens, I would need to talk to them a little bit more. I'm not as familiar with their organization, but they too they provide their service independent of the city.
Okay.
If we gave them no dollars,
okay,
they would still be servicing this community. But I understand your question, and I do have a call into Mary Lynn Krolik, who's the director there,
okay,
to get some more information on that.
Alderman Braham?
I actually did think that Alderman Palomsky was referencing the other item, but overall, the Senior Citizens Commission does a pretty good job in regards to communicating and distributing information on what we in Elmhurst have for seniors. I do want to say that, as Director Gaston stated, that some of these are driven by different organizations, but from what I have been told, like Meals on Wheels, as well as the chore days, Elmhurst residents are one of the larger, if not the largest, city or community that utilizes those services, believe it or not. So it is something that's been really beneficial to our seniors. I think that we can always improve on communicating what we do have available for seniors. I do know that the churches in town do a good job in regards to communicating these services when they're contacted. So there are various ways that seniors are notified of the various senior services that we have in Elmhurst.
Thank you. All right, other questions or comments on this category? We're on to Health Services, page 175.
Ambulance service, that contract is up this August. And this is just our estimate at this time of what might happen. So but the mosquito abatement, that is by contract what we have in place.
Questions? Okay. Contingent, page 176.
Well, the contingent budget is $50,000, and you can see we've blown that budget for the last 3 years. So, not much can be said there. And those dollars are because of storm.
Right.
For the storm damage that we've had in those years, we don't want it to throw off the budget line items in a specific department, usually forestry or streets. So we will capture those costs on this line item so that we know what that particular event cost us.
Questions? Cable television, 177.
That is a pretty consistent item over time. The biggest dollar amount is on the 3052 line. It's comprised of two major pieces. One piece is the actual cost of videotaping all of our city council meetings, our committee of the whole meetings, but it's also the cost of the individuals, the contract people who do our kind of town taping and those types of programs. And that's it. This does have an offsetting revenue. Our cable franchise fees will pay for this.
Questions? Alderman Wagner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Marilyn, just real quick, does UVerse, or the AT&T product, I think, is also recording, or at least broadcasting? Is that in here?
That is, Tom, can you answer that?
Yeah, that's actually, there's no cost to that and stuff. We do that, and they provide channel and stuff just like Comcast does. So again, this is just for programming of our kind of town and the recording of the meetings.
How refreshing.
Other questions? All right, we're going to go to interfund transfers, but I want to check the pulse of the council here to see what the tolerance is, if you want to end after interfund transfers or if you want to go on. How many want to go on?
It's fine if you can.
Right, we're going to do interfund transfers because then we will pick up with AA capital improvement funds after our next meeting. So page 177. Oops,
180.
180.
Two line items here. The first line item is the transfer back to the working cash fund. You might recall that the general fund borrowed money from the working cash fund, about $950,000. The council agreed on a 5-year payback, $190,500 a year. So that's what's going on that line item as we go out. So by fiscal 2014, the 5 years will be complete, and the working cash fund, which you'll see next Monday night, will be back to full strength. The transfer to the debt service, this is debt service that is charged to the general fund that then is transferred to another fund to pay the debt. It's an accounting issue.
Is this our third year of paying back, Alderman York, is this the third year we're paying back of 5?
Yes.
Or fourth? Third, okay.
This will be the third year that we're in right now.
All right. If the will of the council is not to proceed on, so we will not. We will pick up on the 18th. We will not be having a budget session on March 25th. So we will want to work through as much as we can. I think our goal would then to be have a budget, if we get to the circle back items on the 18th, then our goal would be to have a budget for the first meeting in April. Second week?
No, that's the 2nd, correct? April 2nd?
Yes.
To April 1st.
First. Well, we're fooling you there. All right.
Yeah.
All right, any other business?
May I just mention one thing?
Please.
That there is by law required a public hearing for the budget, and that will be the first thing on the meeting of the 18th. So next Monday will be the budget public hearing.
Public, on the 18th?
On the 18th.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn. Alderman Hipson with the motion, Alderman York with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.